Good morning, everybody, and welcome to my channel. My name is Jakub Vaniš, and this is JV Talks. This is a podcast that I'm running about, my favorite TV shows, about my favorite movies, books, about, some tips and tricks, for everyday life. And this time we're gonna be reviewing a TV show that has just wrapped up a new season, and that's Silo from Apple TV. So buckle up. Let's go right into it. So Silo has wrapped up basically on Friday evening, which was also a day when Apple TV released the first episode of the second season for Severance, also a mysterious, great TV show from Ben Stiller. But talking about Silo, this is something that has been influenced or basically based by a series of books. There are 3 of them, which is a little bit confusing maybe for people because they are not really called Silo. The whole trilogy is called Silo. Maybe you can buy it sometimes like that. But it was coming out separately, and these books are kind of, separate narratives. And the first one is called Wool. The second one is called Shift. And the third one is called Dust. So I haven't read them, but I am craving more Silo stuff, and I really need to find out what happened to our protagonists and what's going on in there. so I ordered all of them right now, and I bet within a month or two I'll read all 3 of them. But apparently there are some differences between the books and the TV show. Though I think his name is Howie, the author of the books, is involved somehow in the creation of this TV show. So one thing that needs to be applauded, and by the way, just let me apologize a little bit for my voice. I'm still a little bit sick. There is something called virus called flu B flying around here in Czech Republic, and it's nasty. It takes you out for a week or 2. It took out my whole family. So coming back to Silo, one thing that needs to be applauded is, actually I didn't realize that this series only came out on Apple TV in 2023, and they had a continuation of the story. Basically the second season started I think November-ish 2024, and now just wrapped up mid-January, and apparently they are now shooting the season 3, and they have also written the season 4 completely. So they have announced that all 4 seasons will be out there, and yeah, that should kind of wrap up the story. So Apple is fully behind. It is one of their precious properties. People really love it. Actually, I'm looking at IMDb right now. It is at 8.1 out of 10, which is incredible. It's one of the best television shows that you can see these days. It's post-apocalyptic. There are great characters. It's a great story. We can see the budget, feel it. Those episodes are hefty and long. Most of them are around 1 hour, and it's 10 episodes per whole season. So Apple is doing incredible stuff in there, but also they do it thanks to the fact that they have incredible actors there. So the list of actors is just great. We have Rebecca Ferguson in the role of Juliet, and she's incredible there. Very stoic, very hardcore woman. And then we have Tim Robbins as the main antagonist, the Bernard character, Bernie, and he is just incredible. He was already great in the season 1, but in season 2 he is one of my favorite actors, together with one of the newcomers. I will not spoil it here, but I will spoil it maybe in about 3 to 5 minutes from now. So if you are planning still to watch the season 2 and you haven't, and you don't like spoilers, then stop watching and come back later. But I will spoil some stuff in a couple minutes. So there is a new character introduced here, which is called Solo, and he's played and portrayed by Steve Zahn. And he stole the show from me. He was so great, and actually with time he was even adding more and more to the show. He's my really go-to character here. I would like to grab a beer with this guy, to be honest. And then we have Ian Glenn, as Dr. Pete Nichols, so the father of Juliet. We have plenty of other pretty great actors. Let me check who else is there. Avinash as Lucas Kyle, Common as Robert Sims. A lot of the people online are hating on Sims's character, or Common, how he portrays him, especially in the first season. But I think it's just how the character is written. He's very stoic, and that's maybe sometimes kind of comes across as emotionless. But I would say, everybody is killing it in here. You have really a star cast, and Apple TV is really high up there. They have the best TV shows. Silo, probably with Severance, is the number 1 or 2 for me. What with from the properties they have. But it's been an incredible roller coaster. I have to say though, one thing, regarding the pacing, the first episodes of this season are kind of slow. It's a bit of a slow burn. They are building the characters, and they are building that storyline going on. But then the last 2 or 3, are the whole second half is just incredible roller coaster of emotions. It's just really hitting super hard as nail. And I would recommend you to stick through it. So like, definitely, if you feel like, oh, I haven't watched it since end of 2023, or when did they wrap up, it's been a while, year and a half or something like that, and then it doesn't grab you from the first or episode or 2, it will grab you eventually. Like, maybe with the 3rd episode, there will be new mysteries on top of the old mysteries that we had. And here, actually, they explain a lot of stuff. It's not like the Lost, TV series, where there was just mysteries after mysteries and nothing got explained. Here we got actually plenty of stuff already explained. I would say 70% of the stuff is explained, but we have some new mysteries in here. So I would recommend it to almost anybody that is into like post-apocalyptic stuff, who is into drama, who is into mysterious, sci-fi kind of movies and TV shows or books. You're gonna love it, definitely. Apparently, coming back to that, let's say, book that this is coming from. Now, with the 2 seasons, they actually only covered the first book, the book called Fool. And apparently, because I haven't read it, but according to Reddit, the social network, actually they a little bit hinted or started off the book 2, which is called Shift, by the end of the last episode, the season 10. So let's take a look at some of the episodes. Like I said, they start as a slow burn. I'll always tell you what's the name of the episode, and what's the score on IMDb. So starting with the first one, it's called The Engineer, and it's 7.5 out of 10, which is very decent. That's basically like 4 out of 5. Juliet seeks refuge in an abandoned silo after a catastrophic war, believing herself to be the sole survivor, until unsettling discoveries challenge her solitude. So she actually, makes it out at the end of the season 1, and because she has the new tape, or better tape, she can actually survive way longer than anybody else, and that's what everybody saw on their screens. They saw her, making it past that hill. So at the beginning, you will have basically throughout the whole season 2 story arcs, 2 storylines simultaneously happening at the same time. Juliet's storyline, that is outside of the main silo 18, I think, and the silo 18. And I think this is what some of the people maybe don't like, because now you have like new protagonists, or the people that were kind of playing the second fiddle in the first season are now the most important. Mainly Knox and Shirley, I think, are taking over most of the stuff, together with Walk a little bit, and like I said, Bernard as the antagonist, but he's so captivating whenever he's on screen. So that is like 50-50, I would say, screen time, and it feels like the doings or what's happening actually in the silo, the original one in silo 18, is much more important to what is happening to Juliet. So in that first episode, she actually makes it out. She realizes that the screen actually was just like a virtual reality, so it's not beautiful out there. It's actually really catastrophic, and she makes it behind that ridge, or on top of that ridge, or on top of that hill, and she sees there are, the land is totally destroyed. There's like a destroyed city in the background with some, skyline, and they are probably like maybe 50 silos, or it looks like hundreds, but apparently, they mentioned in the season 1 that there are 51 silos altogether, and they are basically next to each other. So she runs to the first one that she sees, and there's a pile of corpses, like maybe thousands, definitely hundreds, maybe even thousands of corpses around the entrance. People totally, dissolved already. It just are basically skeletons. And she makes it through these dead bodies, and comes down. And there's no electricity. It's super dark. It's kind of overgrown. It gives you this Last of Us vibes. And she runs down the stairs as far as she can. And well, basically she feels that she's alone there until she hears like a music or something like that. Oh no, I think she sees a light from one side of the silo. So and that part is kind of separate. There was I think a bridge towards it, but it got destroyed. So she builds like a bridge, and she gets there, and she realizes there is a vault, and in that vault there is a survivor who doesn't want to talk to her. And yeah, so spoilers, now we're in the spoiler territory. That's Solo, my favorite character actually of this season. Season 2, Episode 2 is called Order. In the underground Silo 18, chaos erupts after Juliet defies long-standing rules, leaving the residents grappling with unthinkable. I think this one was a little bit slower. It's 7.2 out of 10. One of the lowest scoring episodes of this season, unfortunately. And so here it's more about, again, Chili and Nox, they all believe that Juliet is still alive, and they want to get out and try to search for her, and, they feel like they're being lied to by the management, by IT, by Bernard. Season 2, Episode 3 is called Solo, so as my favorite character, and it's 7.6 out of 10, so slightly better. Bernard turns to Judge Meadows for help. Billings begins to wonder if he's being lied to. Juliet finally meets the man in the vault. So what is important about this one is that she finally gets to meet Solo. I don't know if he gets out by this time, but eventually he gets out of the vault, but he's been there probably for like 40 years or something like that, maybe even longer, 50 years. So it's it's very tough for him. And yeah, there is quite a lot of unrest and unease, happening and building up in the Silo 18, which they try to control, with Bernard and Sims somehow, and Judge Meadows, by basically trying to push people against each other, the lower castes, the lower floors like Mechanical against the higher ups, and it kind of works for them. So there are some certain riots, and there's a lot of hate, and it's kind of bipolar there. Season 2, Episode 4 is called The Harmonium. Juliet sets out on a dangerous quest to retrieve a suit so she can return home and save her silo. Mechanical plans a meeting with Judge Meadows. So in this one, it's 7.5 out of 10. Again, great episode, but still, not reaching the highs of this season. She basically, is super afraid of the water. She cannot swim, but Solo, who is now fully out, explains to her that there is a suit like hers because her suit got damaged. So because she wants to come back to her silo and explain to the people that you should not go out. It's dangerous out here. And actually you can, it can all end up just like this Silo 17 next to us, where everybody died because of this. Turns out, there was actually this kind of revolution where people really wanted to get out, and they turned against the management, and they opened the doors, and most of them died, right? Apart from Solo, basically. So she actually kind of scuba dives, kind of. They take like a harmonica, like harmonium, and Solo helps her out to give her some oxygen, and then she goes below the water and she retrieves that suit. And in the Silo 18, in the meantime, what is happening is that Mechanical wants to talk to Judge Meadows, basically to allow them to come out and seek for Juliet. And yeah, so they set it up. Then in the middle of the season 2, Episode 5, called Descent, Sims finds himself with a new position. Juliet learns Solo isn't being honest. Bernard and Lucas make an important discovery. So what is happening in this one is basically that it was all a setup. Unfortunately, Bernard needed to kill his love, which is Judge Meadows. He killed her because she wanted to get out as well, and he couldn't let it be. And so then basically Mechanical had this ascent when they were climbing 100 floors or something like that up, so they can meet with her. They come up and they find her already dead, and there is Sims and Bernard, and they tell them, you did it, guys, and nobody's gonna trust you. So when they get out, they start running, down the stairs, and Sims comes after them and tells to the people, they just killed Judge Meadows, stop them. And that creates those fights, that war basically between the upper part and the lower part. Then what else do we have here? Season 2, episode 6, called Barricades, one of the lower scored ones, 7.1 out of 10. Bernard enacts, it's called Barricades. Bernard enacts a plan to root out Knox, Shirley, and Walker. Billings take a stand, Solo saves Juliet's life and wants something in return. I don't really recall what exactly happened in here, but I think they create a barricade between that upper part and the lower part, I think by the floor 30 or something like that. Yeah, there is really a barricade. They create a wall, like a fence, and they are like police, basically policing it. And yeah, then the society is totally divided at this moment. And Knox and Shirley, are trying to kind of guerrilla themselves out of this. So they use different machinery, to get through the floors, to steal some stuff, because what Bernard and Sims are trying to do is to start them out. So they stop the supply of any food and water. On the other hand, the mechanical they have access to the generator, so they can kill the electricity whenever they want, and that's what they're doing. So they this is kind of like a leverage of power between these two factions. And Solo saves Juliet's life and wants something in return. I don't know how he saved her life. Yeah, I know now. So actually, turns out she was injured. Juliet was injured by the end of season 1. I don't recall this, and that gets kind of inflated. It's really, really bad, and there's an inflammation, and he takes it out with antibiotics, and that actually saves her life. But she felt really bad, and she was out sleeping, for a couple days even. Then we have the Dive episode, which is season 2, episode 7. Lucas is assigned a mission. Mechanical sends a powerful message. Juliet embarks on a perilous descent and confronts a new danger. So what happens in this message, 7.5 out of 10. This episode was pretty great. So in Silo 18, they sent out turns out that they have like oh my god, how do you call it? The shooting powder or something like that. So they have like a TNT, basically. They can create this, and they use it so they can have like a little drone or like a thing that goes up, from mechanical up to the top floors, and then it bursts, and there are little messages that are like, we're being lied to, and Juliet lives, etc. So they again want to instate a war, and they want to gain more people that would follow them. Actually what happens here also is Bernard assigns Lucas Kyle, the smart guy, from the season 1, who is super shy always, to become his shadow, because he needs to there is like a code written by one of the predecessors from the previous Silo, or from the previous generations, hundreds years ago, basically. So he needs him because he's very smart, and he even figured out, that outside, there are stars and planets. Like he figured that out even without being able to actually observe them. So that's incredible. And so he makes him a shadow. He's absolutely stunned because he gives him access to all the information. He realizes what is happening, that there's 51 silos, etc. So he's trying to crack the code of that message, and yeah, I think this is what happened there. And apart from it, actually now before Solo lets Juliet go, to save her Silo 18 coming from Silo 17 to Silo 18, he asks her if she can help him with one thing, because he saved her life. So she will need to dive really super deep and put on like a generator that will pump down the water. Otherwise his vault would be actually underwater in a couple months maybe. So she does it, but she needs to really go down, and she's afraid of the water, etc. But then, eventually when she wants to come back, suddenly there is a stop of oxygen that doesn't come again anymore, and the rope that she was supposed to use to get up is not there. So she's shocked, and she comes up, and there is no Solo. Well, actually what she finds is just stains of blood. So this is pretty scary, because there is no light in here, and like up until now it felt like just Juliet and Solo are there, but apparently there are some predators lurking in the dark. Episode 8, that was the lowest scoring here, but I think I kind of liked it. It's called The Book of Quinn. Okay, so that was the name of that predecessor that they were trying to crack the code of, Quinn. Juliet discovers something happened to Solo. Bernard makes an offer to Walker. Lucas meets with Salvador Quinn's descendants. 6.8 out of 10. Yeah, this was kind of a slow one, but so Juliet discovers what happened to Solo because, well, she meets one person that looks super menacing in a huge armor, and that, like, she's like, oh, what did you do to this man? And he tells her, I killed him, I'm gonna kill you too. And then somebody else comes from another angle, so there's more than one person, and shoots an arrow through her. So she comes back, and because she, you know, went up from the dive super fast, you know, she really, you know, needs to acclimatize right now. So the problem is, you know, she actually needs to come back to the water and stay some time, you know, underneath it, so that she can feel a little bit better. So that was very difficult for her. Lucas, Kyle, you know, the new shadow of Bernard, find out that he needs to, like, he doesn't have the proper relic to actually understand the code. So what it is, it's supposed to be a book, and he has all of the books, but this should be one of the books that is coming from before the silo, and apparently it's something that belonged to Salvador Quinn himself. So he's trying to, you know, meet with his descendants, you know, generations and generations after, and they hate him. They're like, no, Salvador Quinn was a criminal, you know, because of him, you know, we almost all died in the silo, you know, he started the revolution. But on the other hand, Bernard actually explains that he wasn't. He was a great guy, and thanks to him, everything actually, you know, worked out. He came up with this idea of you know, the basically they were saying that up until then there were revolutions like every 10 or 20 years, and ever since Salvador Quinn, it took 450 years or something like that without any revolution. So he's a great, you know, leader. And so in the end he manages to persuade them, and they give him a book, or they tell him what they gave as a book to Judge Meadows, the lady that Bernard loved, and he killed her. So he goes to her apartment and finds that, and he has that book now. So it's only, you know, few more things that he needs to do to crack the code. And then we're in the last 2 episodes of this season, which were so great. Just for these 2, it's worth to seeing it, the whole thing. So season 2, episode 9, The Safeguard is called the episode. 8.6 out of 10. Incredible stuff. Billings' fate is shaken. Lucas heads to the Down Deep. Knox identifies the traitor. Juliet uncovers the truth about Solo's past. So as you can see, you know, there's a lot happening in here. And yeah, well, so first of all, what happens in the Silo 18, you know, Lucas Kyle, the new shadow of Bernard, finds out, you know, what is in that code, and it tells him, go down in the lowest, you know, pits of the silo and look for a tunnel. And so he goes there, and he finds out there's a ton of water. It looks like, you know, a sea of water, and he cannot swim, but he trusts this, and he's like, yeah, it's probably very shallow. And so he climbs down, and it's actually like knee height or something like that, so he's fine. And he finds a tunnel, and it's incredible because he goes there, and suddenly, you know, there's like a flash of light in the tunnel. There's a door in front of the door, and like a godlike, you know, voice, you know, talks to him. It's like, Lucas Kyle, what do you want to what are you doing here? And he's like, yeah, I cracked the code. He's like, yeah, there were only I think 4 people that made it here before you. Judge Meadows, so she cracked the code and she made it there. George, who was the boyfriend of Juliet from the season 1 who died, and Salvador Quinn, and you're the 4th one now. And he's like, do you understand what is a safeguard? He says, yes. We don't know what is a safeguard, but we're about to find out as audience. And so he was like, yeah, don't tell anybody about what you saw here, otherwise we're gonna initiate the safeguard and it's all over. So, you know, he listens. We don't hear the whole conversation, but it's super intriguing. And in the meantime, what is happening, you know, in the Silo 17 is that we find out that, you know, there's like 4 people. Well, yeah, there's 2 adults, 1, let's say, teen there, and then 2 little kids that are living there, you know, off like eating rat meat, etc. And maybe some mushrooms, I guess. And so they have been living in that silo, and they want to kill Solo because apparently, you know, he killed their parents, and the bodies of their parents are actually next to the vault. And yeah, so this is very tense. You know, they're trying to find out what happened to them. There's this lady called Audrey that really wants her revenge immediately. She's bloodthirsty, and her boyfriend called Rick is more, you know, stepping down a little bit. He's like, no, let's not do that. And yeah, so they get persuaded by Juliet that he needs to leave somehow, and that was such a great scene, because Solo was holding it in him, and we got suddenly like a flashback into his past. So he was the son of the head of IT, I believe, and the head of IT, has the access to the vault, and he brought his son in there, and he tells him, man, no matter what happens, never let anybody into this vault. And he told him this so he can, keep him safe, and he took it, and that's why he never allowed anybody to go into the vault. He was protecting it for 40-50 years. What he didn't realize is he was just a little kid, I don't know, 10 years old or something like that. So in front of his eyes was basically this happening, where the sheriff was fighting with his father, and the sheriff was pointing a gun at his father's head, and he's like, let me in, Jimmy. Let me in, otherwise your dad will be killed. And the dad says, no, don't let anybody in, don't, just remember what I told you, this is your quest. And Jimmy just watches as his father dies, and it's nasty. There's a whole war behind it. So he's still a kid, basically in a grown-up body. He never got to really grown up, within a society. So this is so great. And there is this sweet moment where she just tells him like, hey, maybe you can share some of this food, in your vault. It's safer there. Maybe you can bring these people there. And then he realizes that he was just protecting it because his father wanted to protect him. So then Juliet says, but they have a baby, and he's like, oh my god, they have a baby. And it's so sweet, and he brings them there and gives them ice cream and shows them these wonderful books and movies and music instruments, and his vault is just incredible. It's so cool, such a cool place. And like I said, this is I think, what is his name, Zahn? Let me check. I can't see it. The actor's name, he portrays this so well. And then that ends, and then we have the last episode, which just aired 2 days ago, called Into the Fire, episode 10, 9 out of 10, with 3.3 thousands of ratings. In a post-apocalyptic world, a community lives deep underground in a giant silo. Following strict rules, they believe they will protect them. Interesting. So that synopsis doesn't tell us anything, but this was best. This was like one of the best television moments in a whole year, apart from maybe something like a Shogun. So what happens here is, everything kind of gets wrapped up in the end. So Juliet, prepares to go in there. So she takes a fire suit because the other suit was eaten by rats. And so there is really heartfelt moments between her and Solo, who is like, hey, please come back, you promise you come back. And she's like, nothing's gonna ever fucking stop me from trying. So that was amazing, very very strong, and for the first time they actually embraced each other, so that was wonderful. And what is happening in the Silo 18 is just totally nuts. So in the meantime, I think 3 episodes ago I forgot to mention that Bernard actually got Walk, because he has her girlfriend and or her wife actually, and he promises to torture her if she doesn't behave. So she installs a camera in her home, and she always invites these people that are planning schemes against Bernard, and he hears everything on camera. So that's bad. But in this in this one, what happens in the beginning is that they have a plan to go up, and they have a plan to get all of the powder and destroy, I think, the generator. So when Bernard sees this, he's like, yeah, send all of the agents there, all of the police, basically, we have there, all of them. So they go there, there's a big fight, big war, it looks super apocalyptic, and they actually take them. They take Shirley, they take Knox, they take Walk. When they bring them up, to the jail, they take Walk and in front of others, and they say, no, you not. Bernard wants to talk to you and thank you, for your services. So they're like, you bitch, you ruin us, I hope you rot, blah 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 blah. So it's really really tough moments. Then she comes into Bernard's office, and she's destroyed, but then starts to described to him like, yeah, we work in mechanical, it's very loud out there with the generator and everything, and yeah, because of that you cannot always depend on your voice only, so we have this sign language that only us can actually understand. So when you were watching what they what was happening in my apartment, and thinking that you were on top of this, we were actually having a whole different conversation. And she started this countdown like, you're about to find out in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then nothing finds out, and Bernard is like, oh my god, you almost got me, so dramatic. But what is happening in the meantime is that their plan was to send like a bomb in the middle of the silo and destroy the stairs, so the up cannot go down and the down cannot go up, and all of the agents, all of these policemen are actually down, so they would be trapped there, and everybody, all of the criminals were taken up to jail, so these guys can actually overtake the IT. The only problem with that is that we have this sheriff there, I don't know what is the name of the guy, and the father of Juliet. They go and they lose somewhere from the bomb the timer, so they cannot use the timer. So the father of Juliet is like, I have a feeling that Juliet lives. If she comes back, or if you talk to her, give her this, and gives him the watch. Man, I have goosebumps when I'm talking about this. And he's like, I gotta do this, and tell her that she was great just the way she was. And I was an asshole for not seeing it. So that was very, very emotional. Then he takes his life and actually self-sacrifices and detonates that bomb maybe 10 seconds after, Bernard starts laughing, what was supposed to be this. And then he realizes they're screwed. And in the meantime, he also meets, his shadow, Lucas Kal. He was like, where the fuck did you been? And and Lucas Kal doesn't care. He just comes to him and he's like, shut up. I'm about to tell you something, but just pretend I'm telling you, something about our work, and I will whisper into your ear, because if it hears us, we're all dead right now. And he whispers something to him, we don't know what, and then it totally breaks Bernard. He just drops what he's holding in his arms, and he just is a dead man inside, and he starts to go up the stairs slowly. He meets Sims. He's like, oh, Bernard, what did he tell you? What happened? And then he tells Sims, you always wanted to be my shadow. You're my shadow now. And like that's what's happening there. And then Sims wants to find out, so he finds Lucas Kal with his mother. He threatens to kill the mother and Lucas Kal. Lucas Kal is so strong right now. He's like, I don't care anymore. Like, we're all dead anyway. So you can threaten me all you want, but I'm not gonna, tell you. But you can find out yourself. Just go into this room, and it gives him the keys to the room where, Bernard used to go for kind of instructions. And he goes there and meets the algorithm, or that big computer, or I don't know if it's actually a person in another silo or something like that. He brings his family. He brings Camille and his son. And he, states that. And the algorithm actually says, yeah, Sims, I need you to go out with your son, but Kamal can stay. So that is a shock, like why his wife needs to stay. He says, I want to save Silo, so she needs to stay. You have to go. So he's kind of betrayed. It was really, really crazy. And in the meantime, the criminals, or Nox and Chili and others, take over the whole upper part. But there is also this crazy guy, I don't know what is his name anymore, something like Williams, I guess, and he persuades people that it's safe out there. There's a beautiful nature, because he saw that video on that beautiful picture of the nature, of the sun, clouds, and the trees and the birds. And so they're like, yeah, let's get out there. And so they are rioting. They want to go out there, and the only thing that is between them and the outdoors is actually Bernard, so he kind of barricades himself right in front of it with a gun. And this is the moment where actually Juliet comes back. So she suddenly is on that ridge of that hill in front of the silo, everybody fighting. They suddenly see it, those huge screens in cafeterias, and they stop and they look at her, and she comes down, with her firefighting suit, and she waves something in her hand, and she puts it in front of the camera, and it says, it's not safe out there, please don't come out. So they celebrate. It's such an emotional moment, everybody in shock, including Bernard. But so Bernard actually goes out and meets her, and he's like, yeah, I want to be free for once in my life. I haven't been free ever, and I thought I am the one who's deciding things, but I am not. And he feels so broken. And they have this conversation, and he's like, it doesn't even matter. And Juliet says, because of the safeguard. She actually learned, I think, in this episode about the safeguard, also in Silo 17, so that there is a pipe that pumps gas or poison, into the silo, and she has maybe a plan how to stop it in her silo. She tells him that, and in the meantime the door starts to close, so she jumps back. Bernard jumps after her, and he's like, no, there's cleansing fire, we're gonna burn alive. And there's a fire suddenly, and he jumps down, I think, on the ground, and maybe then she jumps down on top of him, or he kind of grabs her, I don't know. But she has this firefighting suit, but this is the last time we see them. And then there is an epilogue that actually is like a prequel, probably maybe thousands or hundreds years ago. We see somebody in probably this day and age, meeting, there's like a congressman meeting Helen, reporter, and they're talking about Iran, dropping a dirty bomb, over DC, Washington DC, and it looks like, this is what happened, that they started a nuclear war, and they had silos, and we see one of the famous relics, this Pez Donald Duck, I think, figurine, that we saw multiple times, through Silo 18. It is currently in Silo 18. It is actually, I think, with Sims, or Sims' son, but we see it now, the origins of it, where the congressman buys it for this Helen, and that's where it ends. And it's just such a cool cliffhanger, and I cannot wait to see, what is happening more. So that's why I'm, buying the other books. I was checking on Reddit with other, users, like if I should go just with Shift, which is the second book, but they say no, there are enough differences, you would be confused. Start with Wool, so I will read Wool, and then I will go to Shift, and then I will end up with Dust, because so the Wool actually, basically is season 1 and season 2, the kind of what we saw here. The Shift is a prequel, so there is a big sign that these new people that we met at the end of now season 2, this is what the next season may be about them, or maybe it's going to be 50-50 or something like that. But so Shift 2 is a prequel, hundreds of or thousands of years ago. And then we have the third book, which is called Dust, and that concludes both of these stories. So yeah, I really enjoyed this immensely. Like I said, I think it's the best kind of television that we have out there. Great, like the last 2 episodes were really, my heart was pumping, and I was on the edge of my seat, and I would recommend it to everybody. Like, really stop what you're doing and watch this. I would subscribe to Apple TV just for this. You can probably watch it over a couple of weekends or something like that. But yeah, this was great work, Apple TV. You are really GOAT when it comes to this production. By the way, I found out something interesting as well. I was trying to figure out what was the budget for this, and I found out one interesting fact, that last episode, season 2 episode 10, was reportedly $40 million, which is huge, so making it the most expensive single episode of a TV show ever. And it shows. This was really a lot of quality on screen, so I'm fully behind it. Maybe it's a recency bias, but this is right now my favorite TV show, and like I said, I need to read the books so I can get my fix. I hope this will not destroy my life, not life, but my love, for this series, because some people said, because there are these differences between the books and the TV adaptation, that they wish they didn't read them. But there was just a minority of people. Majority recommend to read them both, so you can have the best of both worlds. But we know what they say usually, that the books are the best medium for this, the original, right? But on the other hand, like I said, this author of this, Howie, he was part of the let's say the production crew, so he made sure. Basically, apparently, what he said is, I made sure that I updated the story, so it is what I always wanted it to be. So it kind of sounds like George Lucas, what he does to Star Wars, when he always tries to fix things that were not broken. Hopefully this is not the case, but yeah, let me know what you think about this. Like, please leave your opinion in the comments. Did you watch it? How did you like it? Was it too slow for you at the beginning? How did you like the finale? What do you think is actually happening here? Do you have some theories? Would you recommend me to read these books? Anyways, yeah, I really enjoyed it, as you can see, and I can once again recommend it to everybody. And yeah, I think we wrapped up here, and I wish you an amazing day, everyone. So enjoy, and bye bye.